Hello, everyone. I'm Chris Erickson, co-founder here at Workforce Science Associates, and we are excited today to welcome you all to the August WSA Learning Session. Before we begin, just a few housekeeping tips as we get started. Number one, all participants are placed on mute for the presentation. If you have questions for Rachel, please include them in the chat and we will address them at the end of the presentation. We're also recording this session and we'll send it out to all attendees within 48 hours. And so with that, again, thank you for joining us for this next session in our webinar series. And I am excited to introduce our speaker, Rachel Krupicka, Senior Project Manager here at WSA. Rachel brings over a decade of experience in the employee experience space. She has great expertise and knowledge in how to run a project, give great recommendations, et cetera. And so I think you're going to have a lot of good learnings from Rachel today. So please welcome me in joining Rachel as she shares her valuable expertise with us today.
Thank you so much, Chris. And thank you all for joining us on our August webinar. We want to welcome back our previous attendees. And if this is your first WSA webinar, we certainly hope that you find these informative and helpful. Today, we're going to share our tips and suggestions for designing an effective dashboard in Qualtrics. Gone are the days of the paper printout reports of your survey results that ultimately end up at the bottom of a pile somewhere. With the use of Qualtrics dashboards, we're able to share our results in a live and dynamic way. There are three key principles that we take into great consideration when we're designing dashboards for our clients. First, we want to keep things short and simple, or KISS, if you will, because, who doesn't want to love another acronym in their life, right? We've all heard of analysis paralysis. There's a lot of information to sort through when we're looking at those survey results. So we want to put a primary focus on keeping the data digestible and concise. Next, we want to focus on what's important, not just what's interesting. It can be easy to go down rabbit holes, and we've all heard the devil is in the details. Don't let those niche and nuanced details distract you from the most impactful areas of opportunity. And lastly, we want to tell a story. If the dashboard doesn't support a dialogue or narrative that resonates with your viewer, then tying action back to those results will ultimately fail. Let's dive in a little bit deeper into each one of these principles. And while we do so, I'll be sharing our best practice dashboard as an example. Let's start with keeping it simple. In general, Qualtrics dashboards can be very intuitive while being very user-friendly. A quick lay of the land and the overarching navigation of our dashboards. First, over here on the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see the number of responses your current dashboard is recording. I always like to point this out to our clients so if they're filtered or slicing and dicing their data in any way and looking at a specific population, they have an easy point of reference to the number of respondents that they're analyzing. Next, each page can have any number of filters available. Here, I always want to remind everyone to be cognizant and be thoughtful on choosing the filters for these pages. These filters are based on the metadata fields that are provided in your data file. We want to focus on populations that make sense. We don't want to overwhelm our users. Remember, survey responses are confidential. We will not be able to filter any cut of data that has less than 5 responses to adhere to that confidentiality. If you have a hierarchy, we can use that as a filter within your dashboard as well. This can also be used as a data restriction when we're thinking about releasing dashboards to our dashboard viewers. We can restrict that access to only see those for managers that report directly or indirectly into those managers, further adhering to that confidentiality. And next, you will be able to look at the pages available on your dashboard by hitting this drop down. Or if you're like me, I like to pin it to the side of the page so it's readily available every time I need it. For the purposes of today, we'll leave that there. Our WSA best practice dashboard has a focus on one specific dashboard page, which is our first page, this key insights page. This page is designed to be the front page of a newspaper. If we can't grab your attention with a clear headline, then the subsequent pages will only further confuse our dashboard viewers. For that reason, we want to highlight up to 3 primary indices or focus areas for our survey administration. On our page here, we are showing the engagement and the manager effectiveness. What are our measured results? Our number is here in the middle. How do they compare to internal comparisons, such as the company overall or previous surveys? How do they compare to external comparisons, such as our global benchmark? Additionally, what is our response rate? If you've conducted an attributed survey where results are tied back to the survey respondent, we're able to calculate this response rate. Not only is this super helpful when you're doing your survey and watching those responses rolling in, it's also an important indicator for understanding your results after the survey closes. If you have less than 50% response rate, the results cannot be validated as being an accurate representation for your entire organization. And finally, on our Key Insights page, we want to provide clear instructions to our viewers on what to do with those results. Our best practice approach focuses on a 3-step process. Understand your results by viewing your easy-to-understand dashboard. Share your results by coordinating with your teams and sharing communication, so then you can collectively act on those results with your team members aligned. While thinking through this approach, it's always good to consider that consider that end audience. Who is going to be looking at your dashboards? Your administrators, your HR representations may have the wherewithal to dig in a little bit deeper, play with filters, and see those scores dynamically change behind them. But your frontline managers may only need to see a few pages to focus on only those downlines. The Qualtrics system is great at allowing you to choose the data and the pages for each of those role groups should see. For your more analytical widgets and pages for those that want to dig in a little deeper, but also keeping it as simple as possible for others and allowing you to help your dashboard viewers to focus, which makes a wonderful segue to our next key principle. Let's think about focusing on what's important, not just what's interesting. In our best practice dashboard, we have a dedicated page to each one of those areas of focus. Navigating to any of these pages will help you further explain how to drive tangible and tactical progress in the specific areas of focus. For example, the engagement page. Not only does it show the engagement score, like we saw in the Key Insights page, but this time it also includes a breakout for the 4 specific survey items that comprise the engagement index. If you've conducted an engagement survey before, we can also include a trend chart to allow you that visibility towards the progress or regression since your previous implementations. But finally, and most importantly, is the breakdown of the 5 key drivers of engagement. These drivers represent those areas of focus that present the highest correlation to the overall engagement score. Focusing your efforts on these items will help you determine where to expend your attention and energy as a result of your engagement survey. Don't just look for those low-scoring items. Look for those items that have a lower score and a high correlation to engagement, which can be noted by these blue dots next to each item. The bigger the blue dot, the more correlated it is. Focusing on a low-scoring item may improve that item's score. However, if it's not a strong driver of engagement, it ultimately will not improve that overall employee engagement, which is the desired outcome of your efforts. Look for a driver that has a large representation of neutrality. It's much easier to sway someone from a neutral position to a positive position than it is from a negative to a positive. So aim your focus where there's the most room for improvement, a high correlation to engagement, and the largest population for potential influence. This is how to focus on what's important and impactful instead of what's just interesting. And finally, we want to tell a story. If the dashboard doesn't make it crystal clear, then how can we expect our dashboard viewers to understand their results so that they can then share those results? so that they can then act on those results. Our Understand, Share, Act model is the backbone of our action planning, which all starts in the dashboard. Next to each key driver is an Improve button. This dynamic functionality within the Qualtrics platform allows dashboard viewers to tailor their action plans. And once we get into our action planning page, they are met with sample action steps and focus listening questions that are aligned to their areas of focus. Now, by no means are we suggesting that every question is asked or every step is taken, but rather these tools provide a starting point to help your dashboard user begin their action planning journey. Here are some leading questions to start those conversations to really understand and hear what your teams are saying. Then, once an action is determined from those discussions, the user can create their own or use one of the sample actions to customize and fit their needs. Here, they can also include an additional owner of the action plan. If another manager happens to be using this same item as their area of focus, they can share the responsibility. They can track and customize what time frame they want these actions to be done in and what progress they are making, all in one place. The story from start to finish is outlined, starting with what we want to accomplish, where we need to focus, and how we're going to draw attention and efforts toward this common focus in a time-bound manner. We are truly checking all of the boxes of who, what, when, where, why, and how, the 6 key components to any storyline. Now, while we want to keep things short and simple, we do understand that there are those that want to dig in deeper into the data. For supplemental material and to further create clarity in a dynamic and concise way, there are additional features in our best practice dashboard, such as the item summary page. While we have spent a lot of time and focus on the key insights and indices, there are likely more items that made up your survey. The item summary page is a wonderful way to see how you're doing in all aspects of your survey results. This page provides the scores and comparisons to all the questions that were asked on your survey and the categories that they fall into. While our principle is to focus on what's important, reviewing the items surrounding those key drivers could provide some further insight and clarity. For example, my ideas and suggestions count was one of our key drivers. Here you'll see that this item falls underneath the communication category. Many of the items in this category are lower scoring, and they have a high neutrality. An overall look at the communications within your company, group, or business unit could be something that is considered when taking action. And then there's everyone's favorite page, the heat map. This is usually where I lose my audience, but you're here and you're engaged, so we're going to keep going. Everyone wants to dig into the data here, and I have to be honest, so do I. The heat map allows dashboard viewers to understand specific great breakouts within the organization and how they compare to one another. What we're looking at right now is we do have that company overall as our comparison, and our breakout is by function. This heat map will let you see where those hot and cool spots are within the organization and these functions. The deeper the green, the higher the score is to that comparison. The deeper the red, the lower. These breakouts can be hugely insightful and impactful to see where things might be going very right or not so much. Where are your bright spots? What are they doing in those areas that can be replicated by others? Where are things not so bright? What attention should be directed to those places? It's here I like to remind our employee engagement administrators the importance of quality data going in, because it allows for quality data to analyze. If you consider your employee demographics, remember that if you can't take action on a specific demographic breakout, don't distract your dashboard with that unnecessary data. That's where it can get really easy to focus on interesting rather than what's important. And make sure to keep close attention to those key areas of focus. It'll help you further understand where your areas of opportunity may impact. Another valuable feature within the Qualtrics dashboard design is how to interpret and understand response data coming in from open-ended questions. Our comments page takes open-ended response data and buckets it into these top 5 key topics stemming from those comments. It also provides sentiment analysis of these topics, meaning the comments that are falling into these topics, are they largely positive, negative, neutral, or mixed? The verbatim comments are also provided on this page to provide you a review and reference to see what people were saying on their survey. Now, while common analysis can often become a major temptation for focusing on what's interesting rather than what's important, layering these specific comments to help better understand that topics that align with your key areas of focus and those key drivers can provide a lot of context and clarity, which is a huge value add when you're trying to tell that story. And to do everything we can to help your users understand and navigate the dashboard, we include a frequently asked questions page as well. This page illustrates your dashboard users the notable functionality that the dashboard provides, such as how to read your scores, what are my comparisons, and how to read heat map. Which does bring us back to this. While I'm a project manager and I've been working in the employee experience space for several years, first, I was a mom. I have 2 boys. I have 2 teenage boys who still love their Legos. And with my house filled with Legos and being in the data business, this image really resonated with me and summarizes everything we talked about today in all of the best ways. We start with our data, of course, or bricks, if you will. You send in your data file, we collect survey responses. Then, with our dashboard, we follow those 3 key practices and principles. First, we sort and arrange our data by keeping it short and simple. Second, we visually present the data to focus on what's important. And by doing that and putting everything together, we can tell our story. We are confident in doing this that you will be provided the keys to the car for driving engagement. Thank you so much for taking time with me today. Are there any questions?
Yes, Rachel, we do have a couple of questions. And by the way, thank you. That was excellent and very, very informative. The first question, other tools sometimes flag or recommend focus areas using similar correlation analysis, 1, 2, or 3, for leaders. Is this possible in Qualtrics?
For Qualtrics, we do really focus on those key drivers as far as the dashboards go. We don't have a 1, 2, or 3. There are some widgets that we have played around with within the system that have those key areas of opportunities, but where we have found the most bang for our buck, so to speak, are utilizing the key drivers and that correlation to the engagement index.
Makes sense. Next question is, for the top 5 drivers, is there a way to exclude questions that are above the comparisons?
I am taking a moment to think about that one. Not that I can think of off the top of my head. Now, we absolutely, in the key driver widget, we are able to select the items that do come into the widget. That is definitely a possibility. But because of the dynamic nature of the dashboards themselves and being able to filter on each dashboard, it would be hard to determine which cut of data or which person that this item may or may not be a key driver for.
Great. Next question. How do you recommend moving users from exporting a dashboard as a PDF versus just using the dashboard itself to understand the data?
Oh, that's a great question. I am also a person that loves to have a paper printout. Don't get me wrong. I still have a to-do list every day. But I do think just showing your users the dynamic way that they can utilize the dashboards, they will adopt it a lot faster than you may think. Because the paper printout only gives you that one overarching score. Whereas if you do have that dynamic dashboard right in front of their eyes, they're going to be able to see is like, hey, you know what? This cut of data or this function or this piece of the company does need a little bit more effort or is doing something really right. This is where we can really focus our attention and replicate what they're doing. Just showing them that dynamic nature is very impactful, and I think that they'll adopt a lot faster than you might think.
All right. Kind of going back, Rachel, to that first question, there's a follow-up, and it is for the key drivers. I mean, is there a way to have the tool point out for dashboard viewers, this is the top 3 items you should consider action planning against? Or maybe should we consider adding a descriptive text element above the key driver widget explaining this?
Oh, absolutely. So on the key driver widget right now, we do have it filtered to be the top 5 key drivers. We could absolutely take that to the top 3. And I'm going to bring up my dashboard again, and we'll look at those together. So the other thing that we can do is we can absolutely have some text that indicates what the company is looking at as far as what to do with those key drivers. We do have some context here that we've already written. This is absolutely editable. So we could do this to fit the client's goals, and we can drop this to the top 3 rather than the top 5.
All right. And then as a follow-up to the second question, our HR teams are using the dashboard live, but when they share the information with leaders, they then export it as a PDF.
Okay. Well, there's a couple different things that can be done. They could share the dashboard with the leaders in more of a meeting setting, kind of like what we're doing today. Maybe not just a webinar, but it could be through a virtual meeting where they can see the dashboards. Or there is, if they give the access to the managers, to their own specific dashboard areas, meaning the downlines and things like that. There could be a additional dashboard that the HR representatives could see that is focused just on what those managers would see, meaning just the pages, maybe just the key insights page, the item summary, and maybe the comments or the frequently asked questions. So maybe there's just those few pages that the manager can see, and we can allow the HR representatives to see that too, as to not overwhelm those managers, meaning they only see the pages they see and those downlines that they should be able to see to help them focus and only seeing that piece that's important to them.
That's great advice. Um, Next question. How do you leverage verbatim comments in an organization where most groups do not meet the threshold to view that data, and the overall organizational data may or may not apply to those individual teams?
That is a great question. A lot of times with the open-ended comments, they are kept at a higher level within the organization anyway, because we do want to make sure that we're adhering to that confidentiality. Our best practice is to have that minimum threshold be around 30, especially for those larger organizations. When it does come to smaller organizations, I have seen us drop that minimum threshold down a little bit, maybe to 20 or even 15, which is definitely something that can be done within the technology. And then looking at that group of 15 or more may help a little bit as far as drilling down on what's important for those individual groups, business units, etc.
Okay. Next question. Where does AI, obviously the hot topic for
Mhm.
all of us, where does AI fit into the dashboard design?
Oh, great question. All of these are great questions. Qualtrics has done a lot of great things over the last couple of years within stepping into that AI space. For EX dashboards specifically, we have the comment summary, the engagement headlines, as well as the bot or the AI assist. At the moment, with our clients, the adoption has been a little bit slower. So we haven't yet incorporated it as part of our best practice dashboards, but we're certainly working with those clients that are dipping their toe into the AI waters to help find the best way to blend these tools and keeping true to our principles.
And I think this next question is related to the heat map.
Okay.
Could you explain what the green/red color coding means in the comparison columns? Or maybe, no, it is on this dashboard. No, you're
Yep,
right.
it's probably for right here. Yes. So
Mm,
there's a couple different places where we see the comparisons. We see them here in the columns on the key drivers, as well as in the item summary, as well as on the dial here. So those comparisons are what your score is in comparison to those features that we're looking at. So the internal comparison here is our previous survey administration, which is at 65%. Our current is at 69. So the green indicates that your score or whatever the cut of data that we're looking at is higher. Red would be our score is a little bit lower than what that comparison is.
great. Well, those are all the questions. Rachel, you're an amazing teacher. In the group chat, someone already has added the heat map into their dashboards. And so that's pretty exciting. Um, so again, thank you and great job.
Thank you
Next.
so much. And thank you everyone for joining us today. Definitely want to make sure that I show everyone this slide and everyone joins us next month. So please want to invite you to join us next month on September 17th, where my friend and colleague, Shelley Doty, executive consultant with WSA, will be doing part 2 of the Data is in Now What? The good, better, and best approach for taking action on employee feedback.